Fox News cheesecake model Megyn Kelly desperately wants people to take her seriously. Certainly she's quite bright, but like the rest of her GOP TV colleagues, the foundation of her success is being a reliable conservative water carrier. Critical to the Fox News propaganda factory selling a spin is using carefully selected terminology, heavily laden with judgment. Fox News' Bill Salmon recently was busted by Media Matters for sending out a memo instructing reporters to use the term government option instead of public option. Not that most of the opinion journalists on Fox News need guidance to use terms like death panels, coined by the very own Sarah Palin, or death tax developed with focus groups by the very own Frank Luntz. So Fox News doesn't play the hypocrite by criticizing others' political correctness, right? Right?
Illegal immigrant, illegal alien, those terms could soon be history if a journalistic group has its way. The Society of Professional Journalists launching a campaign to do away with, in their words, language that is offensive to Latinos. Instead, asking journalists to say undocumented workers or undocumented immigrants. Do they have a point? Joining me now for a fair and balanced debate, former Deputy Assistant to President George W. Bush, Brad Blakeman, and Fox News contributor Jamoo Green, who is the former president of the Women's Media Center. All right, panel, thanks so much for being here. So they think that the term illegal immigrant is offensive. Jamoo, do they have a point?
They do have a point. I think we can all agree that the increasing violence against immigrants that's happening across the world is something that should come to an end. And by using that term, it's extremely dehumanizing. It adds to an environment of fear, and it really, I think, plays into the economic anxieties. If we can find a way to use terms that do not describe the person, because it's not that these people are illegal as human beings. We're all human beings. Instead, describing the act versus the person.
Brad, does Jamoo raise some good points?
No, she does not, and I must disagree strongly and say it's not the job of journalists to determine for journalists what people should be called. The fact of the matter is, as you pointed out in your last segment, you're trying to sell something and repackage it. They are illegal. Their status is illegal. There's 12 million illegal aliens in America as we speak today, if not more. The problem is not what we call them, it's what we do with them. And the Latinos that I spoke to have no problem with that word. They also believe that all American laws should be followed by every citizen, and you can't pick and choose the laws that you choose to obey. Now, was the United States complicit in inviting illegal aliens to America without documentation? Sure we were. We didn't secure our borders properly, but that doesn't change the fact that of their status. They are illegal, and they should be called such.
You know, Jamoo, even the Associated Press, their guidelines say that when you refer to this group of people, you should use the term illegal immigrant. And they have all sorts of reasons for this, including they say that those terms accurately describe a person who resides in the country unlawfully, and saying alternatives like undocumented worker lacks precision and may have negative connotations itself. I mean, they say the illegal immigrant is accurate and it's neutral. The person is an illegal immigrant into the country. There are legal immigrants who have come and gotten their papers, and then there are those who have not done it lawfully, and that immigration process has been illegal, and they are considered illegal immigrants.
Well, I have to say that the Associated Press is wrong on this one, and I think if people look at campaigns similar to the one that Color Lines is doing, Drop the I word, the AP is going to come around and realize that their current style guide is wrong. And it absolutely, Brad, to your point of what the role of journalists is in this situation, it absolutely is up to journalistic organizations to change their style guides, to provide advice to journalists out there as far as how we cannot contribute to an environment of hate, the economic anxiety, the
your job is to
violence.
report. Your job is to report the news,
these terms
not to
are
determine
absolutely contributing to an increase in violence.
Let me just ask you this, Brad, because how far could you take this? I mean, you could say that a burglar is an unauthorized visitor. You know, you could say that a rapist is a non-consensual sex partner. I mean, which obviously would be considered offensive to the victims of those crimes. So how far could you take this?
you can take it all the way to farce, which is exactly what's being done here. Their main mission in dumbing down the name, Megyn, is because they're seeking amnesty for these individuals. There's no reason not to use this unless you have an ulterior motive, and the ulterior motive is amnesty, plain and simple. There is no business for journalists to determine for other journalists what statuses should be called. It's not their job.
What about it, Jamu? I mean, as somebody who used to head up the Women's, Media Research Center, what about that? What if there was a push by the criminal defense bar to rebrand the use of the word rapist to non-consensual sex partner?
I think it's apples and oranges. The immigration issue in this country and around the world is very complex, and dumbing it down to referring to human beings as being illegal is not something that any journalist who has integrity should be doing.
But let me ask you this, because your point seems to me to speak to the short form, which a lot of us use, and you can make a good argument, I think, that you shouldn't be short-forming it to illegals, the illegals.
Absolutely.
But the longer-term illegal immigrant, your point doesn't really speak to that, because the illegal, the use of that word, it's describing something. It's not describing a human being. It's describing the immigration status.
It's describing a status. That's exactly right. You're not
well,
attacking
you know
the
what
individual.
It's also doing, Brad? It is increasing violence against immigrants. And I would hope that we could agree that that is something that, if there are ways that language can stop the increasing violence against immigrants, that's not just happening in this country, but around the world, that would be something that we would all want to see happen.
Brad, I'm going to give you the chance, but Jamu, I just want to follow up. Where is your evidence that the use of the term illegal immigrant is creating violence against illegal immigrants?
Well, Megyn, of course, language has a lot to do with how people look at certain communities, how people react to certain communities. We've seen it historically. It was done against Jewish people in World War II. I mean, come on, we have a responsibility as journalists, I think, to use terms that are fair, that are not biased, and ideally will not help to increase people's fears and anxieties that will lead to violence against immigrants. There are much better ways of referring to this community. You can, because
Brad, what does it hurt? What does it hurt if we change the terminology?
For different reasons.
What does it hurt if we change the terminology? If you have a group of people or a group of journalists like Jamu, like this journalistic society, the Society for Professional Journalists, which has done a lot of good. Their diversity committee in particular is the one pushing for this. What does it hurt to change the terminology to undocumented workers?
Well, if an individual journalist feels that they want to use that term, more power to them. But to collectively gang up and say that all journalists must use this word, that illegal immigration, illegal alien must not be used to describe these people because it creates violence, is nonsense. There is no proof that that occurs. The fact of the matter is you're talking about status, you're not attacking the individual, and we do have a problem of illegal aliens being in this country. Immigration is a problem. It's not the individual in the sense that we're attacking one person. There are 12 million of them here. Let's deal with the status and forget the nomenclature to make people feel better.
They talk about this diversity committee talks about the hurtfulness of phrases like that. But you could, we did a segment earlier the year on how little people find the term midget offensive. So you can't say that anymore, and how there's so many words that are suddenly becoming hurtful. And then part of the group thinks it's hurtful, and the other part doesn't, and you're left as a journalist, sort of saying, oh, I don't know what to do. In any event, we appreciate the fair and balanced debate. As always, Brad and Jamu, all the best to you.
Thank you.
You can form your own opinion on this fair and balanced debate. However, there's at least one point that needs clarification. Despite Megyn Kelly magnifying this issue by claiming the Society for Professional Journalists is behind the semantic change, in fact, it's based upon the sole opinion of Leo E. Lawrence, who blogged about it on their website. There's an update on this blog. I assume it was added because of the controversy, making this point clear. I guess opinion journalist Megyn Kelly was too busy doing a centerfold to actually research the topic.